Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Drink Minimum, a podcast where we talk about various life topics over 2 beers at minimum. We are your hosts. I'm Janet.
And I'm Edwin.
And today we are talking about surrounding yourself with greatness and the importance of doing that while drinking Stone's Delicious IPA. So do you want to talk about the beer a little bit while you get it cracked open?
Yeah. Well, I think it's good they call it delicious because they couldn't put that on the bottle if it weren't true.
That's true. Cheers. So this is an IPA. It's high ABV, 7.7%.
Oh, that's going to make tonight interesting.
Yes.
That drive home's going to be a bitch. No, just kidding, people. I'm already home.
Yeah, we're already
I'm not driving.
We live together. It's a citrusy IPA with lemon drop and El Dorado hops.
I definitely taste the lemon and the citrus. El Dorado hops. I mean, I don't know what that means, but
it's just the type of hops it is.
I mean, I figured, but I don't know what I should get.
Yeah, me neither. I don't remember.
What does that mean for the taste? Like, I don't know. But overall, it tastes really good. I really like their let's see if I can get the camera to focus on.
No.
Yeah. Well, on the bottle cap, it has their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest.
That's cute.
It's
you
all
wouldn't be able to because I always take
Stone Brewing. And it looks really good and real clean, which, you know, it's really good marketing, so that looks nice.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter tasting than I'm used to Stone being. Like, the main beer I've had from Stone is, like, I think it's just their straight-up IPA. It's just called IPA, right?
They
no,
have
it's
one
called,
that
like,
looks all
it's called, like,
angry
yeah,
or
it has, like, you know, Stone always has, like, the satanic imagery, so I think it was, like, their arrogant bastard ale and stuff like that. Those are a lot harsher. This feels a lot more, easy to drink, definitely still bitter, but it does have a little bit of fruitiness to it, which is quite nice.
Yeah, and I picked this one because the episode today is about surrounding yourself with greatness, just in your life in general. And I was thinking, what would be a great beer? So I picked Stone because it's very, very good. It's not like, I don't think it's the greatest, but it's very good. So I'm like, well, this is a very good beer. I thought about surrounding yourself with greatness, having like the Binny's 6-pack of different beers. I'm like, see, I'm surrounding myself with the
That'd be
greatness
cool.
of beers. But then I didn't make the drive, and I was like, is that actually good or is it kind of whack?
I thought it was cool.
So
well, now people know you had the idea.
If I would have spitballed it out loud, maybe you would have been like, no, just go. I would have probably went.
I don't think it was that deep for me, but that I like that idea.
Yeah. So overall the beer's good though. I like it. It's probably, I mean, obviously Anti-Hero's my favorite just flat out beer, and All Day IPA is pretty close because it's a good like all day casual beer. But you know, Stone brings it. So this was a great beer to pick because it may not be the greatest beer or my favorite beer, but it's super, super good. And if someone told me it was their greatest or favorite beer, it wouldn't surprise me, and I could totally see why, because it's very, very solid and great company.
Yeah, for sure. So today's topic, once again, is surround yourself with greatness. So as usual with this podcast, we like to start things off by kind of defining what we mean when we introduce a topic. So for surround yourself with greatness, for me, that's kind of like this idea of having people in your life and things in your life that are elevated. I'd say more people than things. And that just means that, like, if it's a person that you consider great, to me, greatness is when you know what you want in life and you're pursuing that. Usually that's associated with some level of joy or contentness, and you're going for that. And even if you don't know what you want out of life, as long as you're kind of maybe you're actively exploring things to try to figure it out. And to me, that's what greatness is. I would also add in positivity. To me, like, personally, I don't know anyone who I consider to be great who isn't also positive. So I would say those are my kind of defining characteristics or parameters.
So I'll go with first. We'll go with Webster, and then I'll tell you what I think. So Webster's dictionary says, of an extent, amount, or intensity considered above the normal or average. And then the second, definition there is of ability, quality, or eminence considerably above the normal or average. The great Italian conductor is an example of a sentence where they use the word great and kind of show you what it means, right? So for me, greatness is about aiming for a higher level, an elite level in something. So just like you said, Janet, it could be career, it could be quality of life, it can be something that's kind of difficult to measure, but you can kind of define, like happiness. Just saying, like, I'm going for top elite level in that. And some people might think, well, I don't think I'm great at anything. Or they might think I don't really know anyone who kind of fits that, who like I know. So we're going to kind of talk about what that means for us, maybe once we break it down a little bit more, you'll realize that you do have greatness in you or around you, or maybe you'll realize that you want to seek that stuff out in the people and communities you're involved with. Yeah, so that's what greatness. That's the definition for from Webster. That's a little bit of my own take, and now we can kind of delve into more of the topic and surrounding ourselves with greatness.
So yeah, some examples of ways that I surround myself with greatness in my life, or I see greatness around me, starting with the immediate, and then kind of zooming out to like people I know or admire that I don't necessarily know personally, but I still feel like have a factor in my life or a role in my life. Just, here in my apartment, I live with my brother and his girlfriend, and also my dad, and just, they all do very different things, as we've kind of mentioned on this podcast before. Edwin's a musician, his girlfriend Maggie is a teacher, and a grad school student, and then my dad is, like, service industry stuff, and that's, like, it for his profession. But just starting with my dad, because I feel like, me and him, we have a lot of differences between us. Like, we don't have a whole lot in common. We don't really agree a lot in terms of, like, overall life philosophy. But as I've gotten older, especially, I've really started to appreciate what he does bring to the table, and really admire the work that he does put in, and, not only be able to want those things for myself, like the kind of, I guess, the parts I admire most about him, inspire me, but also just, like, his drive in general, even for the parts that I guess I don't relate to as much. Like, I don't really like being in the service industry. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't really be down to do that long term the way he is. Like, he's been doing that since, like, the 80s. So then, what is that, like 30 years or something?
So, yeah, it would be,
that's a lot.
I would say he's got at least 45 and probably higher than that.
Yeah, so that's crazy. I haven't even been alive for that long.
You told me, off the
podcast, I've never done anything for 5 years, like the same one thing, unless you're trying to get, and I'm talking about like actual things, not like,
like an active thing that you didn't have to do.
Yes, like I'm talking about like a hobby or a career or something like that.
You haven't done anything for 5 years. Yeah. So think of the thing you've done the longest and multiply it by 8. Multiply by 9, and you're around Dad's level at his job.
Yeah, so just the longevity is something that I really admire in my dad, even though I don't really relate to that, but I think that's really cool. And he goes out there every day and he's working. Right now he's doing overnight shift, which is really hard, but he's at a job where he likes the location a little bit more, the pay a little bit more, and he's like, well, that's what I want, so I'm just gonna I'm going to rise to the occasion. This is what the job demands. Now, to an extent, I may disagree with some elements of that, because I'm not a big fan of him working the overnight shift, because it's very late. It seems very taxing on the body and stuff. But, I respect his decision, him going for that, because he's like, this is what I want out of my life. I want to be working directly in the city of Chicago and not in the suburbs, and I want to make a little bit more money. And he now has that, and that requires him to, I guess, work, harder than he was working before, be around new people, get used to, a whole new schedule, a new commute, all that stuff. But he embraced that because it was part of his overall vision. And I really respect that in anyone. And then also, the amount that he runs, of course. We've kind of mentioned that a few times on the podcast. But he's consistently, always putting the most miles. We all have the Nike Run Club app. And he's always, top of that. If he sees that you're kind of getting up there, even though he's not really doing it in a malicious way, but he is competitive, even though he doesn't really fully admit that he does this. But I know he's well, go out for a little bit longer. But he runs so consistently that it's not like he's just oh, let me lace up my shoes because I see you're doing it. He's always out there. But if he kind of sees you behind him on the leaderboard, he's like, oh, you're trying to take me? No. And he'll just keep going. And I find that to be great and inspiring. The degree to which my dad found his passion in running probably around 2002, 2001, maybe even a little bit earlier. And he was always active in terms of fitness. And he just really attacked it and pursued it. And he's read all these books on running. That's another thing that's really cool, I think, about Dad that I guess I haven't really told him directly, and maybe I should. It's kind of weird that sometimes I walk up to someone and be like, that's what I admire about you. It's like, oh, you think, are you dying? Do you have cancer? But the amount that he he'd be like, what's happening? I know my dad's voice is so feminine in my impersonation, but yeah, I really admire the amount of studying he'll do for when he cares about it, right? And that's the point. We all have different things we care about. And for Dad, it was running. And back when he was, struggling with alcoholism when we were kids, it was getting sober. And he had all these books on sobriety and all these things. And, he used to have skincare problems as a teenager. And then, you didn't have the best skin. It wasn't terrible, but he was kind of, I think, concerned that, you know, might hurt your self-esteem or whatever. So, like, he had, like, all these skin acne books, like, medical level books. So, like, I think that's really cool, too. And, like, you know, he finds what he's passionate about and attacks it. And at the end of the day, I think that's what true greatness is. Even though, you know, it's funny because it's Dad and he's such a doof a lot of times. And, you know, he's very to himself and, you know, all these things. But yeah, when you really think about it, like, that dude's killing it. And I love using my dad as an example because I think, you know, so often, you know, when you and I are talking at a wedding, it'll be like, you know, very like goal, work, whatever, creative work too. So we're kind of in that same vein. But my dad's so different. You know, he's blue collar and he doesn't want to rise with the ranks. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to make art or whatever, all this stuff. And, you know, I think a lot of times when I'm talking about this kind of stuff, people think that I'm like maybe a little bit snobby or that, I want this like big hippie life. And, you know, my dad's very like, you know, our dad's very blue collar, American dream, like, go out, get your money, pay your bills. Like, he's obsessed with that. That's the whole thing. And to an extent, I think he takes it a little too far sometimes with the way he, you know, kind of, I think it holds him back in some ways. But at the end of the day, like, he knows what he wants, and he goes out and gets it. And I respect that, and I admire that. So that's my first example of greatness. Oh, Dad. My dad's great.
Dad is great. So, yeah, greatness, just kind of, I think I'll just kind of stay in the house and kind of think about how I guess surround myself with greatness since I did in the house. Like, for me, it's all intentional. It's are you focused on the task at hand or the tasks that you want to be addressing? And everyone I live with, and I made sure of that, is doing that. Like, you know, my girlfriend does that with her career, teaching, but also looking ahead and getting her master's degree. To kind of enhance her knowledge and the impact she can make in the communities and organizations. You know, Janet here with her journalism stuff and making sure she's on the right path and like working, you know, hard at the things she wants to do. And then my dad, I don't like supervise or anything like that. I don't really supervise anyone. But
yeah, it's kind of weird.
But you know what I mean? Like I'm a leader with him too.
Well, the three of us talk a lot more. Yeah, a lot more, kind of more closer in age, and we like work on our goals together.
So I don't really like. He doesn't really ask me much. I mean, he does. You see him ask me questions a good amount, but not necessarily like what should I do with my career. But like it's just making sure, you know, like his truths align with his actions and they do, and that's awesome. So it's like, you know, everyone I live with is great like that, and that was on purpose. I didn't want to have. I've been in other situations. I'll kind of go the flip when I didn't have greatness, and I've lived with people before where that wasn't the case. People weren't washing the dishes. They weren't respecting the house rules, which were kind of like, hey man, like I work in the morning. Can you kind of just a little down? Maybe like 2 a.m. and like the TV's blasting, like there's a party, but it's just you like watching some YouTube videos. And I'm like, come on, man. Like I don't want to be the square who, you know, comes out and I'm like, but I'm like, you know, I work at 8 and I have to drive to work, so I'm not getting up at 8. I'm getting up like at 6:30 or something, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like that's not very considerate at 2 a.m. When I mentioned it before, like how many times do I really got to be annoying about it, like. So things like that. Be
great in your consideration.
People like, you know, not paying their rent. Like I never have to worry about that now. You know, every now and then something happens and someone has to mention something, but it's pretty rare. And it's not like, hey, like I'm probably not going to get their portion this month. You know, and I don't know, and they're not going to tell me until like I can't do anything about it. So, so I had stuff like that before where people were just like very sloppy with it. And it happens, but like, you know, we have to make sure that, you know, you're around people who are like, hey, everyone's kind of got their stuff together. And what I like about my family now is that everyone does have their stuff together. There's no issue at all with those kinds of things. And that's, you know, it might be greatness that like, you know, it's like, oh, well, you're supposed to do that. Yeah, you are, but it's hard to do. And you got to make sure you're around people. I mean, how many people, everyone has horror stories of roommates or landlords or just people who just make daily life a hassle. So being around people that really never have that happen is to me that's greatness and it's a true asset. And again, like you mentioned before, Janet, sometimes when we talk about greatness, because for me greatness is, you know, Grammys and like gold records and, you know, creating some of the greatest music and pushing the boundaries of genres to the highest extent. So that can sometimes maybe intimidate people and maybe people think, oh, like you're like this aspiring or big shot music person or whatever, and like, oh, like, you know, all I do is I'm a bank teller, like can't talk to you. And it's not really like that. I'm not like that. It's fine. And it's just whatever your stuff is, make sure you're maxing it out and pushing for greatness in your life. Maybe you want to be really good at your job. Maybe you want to take the money from your job and, you know, fulfill like your vacation stuff. Maybe buy a home, potentially, you know, buy a new car. There's certain things that you're like, these are my goals, right? If your goal is to get a new car or get a new house or, you know, take a vacation, there's greatness in that. That's a great goal to have. It's a healthy goal to have. It's a good goal to have. It's beneficial to your overall well-being. And you can be great at doing those things. So like I said, greatness comes in many forms. I think everyone has some kind of, hopefully, living situation or people they have to interact with in daily life, and you want greatness in those things because you want to have a kind of a stress-free life or a life with less stress, I would say.
Yeah. When would you say you, especially since you and Maggie, like, you didn't literally grow up together because you weren't like kids and you knew each other, but you guys were started dating when you were like 20, right? You were 20 and she was like 19 or something. Mm-hmm. When did you know Maggie was great?
Right away.
Okay. Why?
Well, okay, you know what? So? That's not true.
And how did you, like, when did you kind of feel like you became, or you started to strive for greatness or achieve greatness? Because I feel like both of you guys had a similar rise.
I would say
together.
With Maggie, not immediately, but I would say well within the first 6 months. So I can't time it. Some people I know they're great right away. It's cool when it happens in sports. When I'm like Lonzo, the first time I saw Lonzo Ball play, my life's changed watching Lonzo Ball play. I'm like, you are special. And granted, he was already like, you know, I mean, he's not a superstar even now, but he was already pretty well known when I got to him. But once I saw him, I was like, oh, or when I saw Chucky, I remember the first time I saw Chucky, again, I was a little late there and I wasn't vocal, which makes me mad because I like to be like, see, ahead of the curve. But when I first saw Chucky play, I'm like, yeah, he's really great. I don't know how great he'll be because of his style. It's up and down.
Chucky from what team?
Chucky, he plays for Mexico. He plays for PSV. He played for Pachuca. So if you're a soccer fan, again, I'll try not to keep it I'll try to make it generic enough where if you don't know anything about soccer, he was just a young soccer player. He was like 16, 17, 18 when I first saw him. And I remember he was really special. And here's how you know someone's great or when you think someone's great. I saw him and I told Maggie about him. I'm like, oh, he's so good. Like he has the potential to be like great, you know? Mm-hmm. And then she's like, oh, okay, cool. And we watched him play some games, and he scored a goal in a couple games we watched. And she was like, oh, yeah, it looks really good. And then I remember one day, I was, you know, doing errands or whatever. I missed the Mexico game. I wasn't able to watch it. And then Maggie watched it with some of her friends, like at a bar or something. And she's like, hey, I saw Chucky play. And one of her coworkers, like, you also know soccer, was like, she said he doesn't think he's like, you know, that great, or like he had a bad game. He looked pretty rough. Like, you know, maybe he's not, because he was so young and we had such less information about him. Because, you know, 2 years or a year in a professional league, that's not a lot of data, right? So if you're saying they're great and they have some bad games, it looks really bad because they don't have that many games. And I remember what I told her there. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember my own quote, but she was like, you know, I don't know. Like these people I'm hanging out with were like, he's not all that, and then he looked like he struggled. And I said, I don't worry about Chucky. I already saw what I know that's going to make him great. So it doesn't matter how bad he played yesterday. Because greatness a bad day won't change your mind on the projection of someone. When you're like, oh, I know they're great. Yeah, he probably did have a bad game. I didn't watch it. And if you're saying he was bad, he probably didn't play good. But am I worried about his overall career? No, because I saw what's special. And what's special about him are things that are intangible, things that you can't really... He's not going to lose the things I saw. Lonzo's not going to lose the things I saw. And with Maggie... the things I saw was that she was very hardworking. She was smart. She was willing to do what she needed to do to progress in her school. She was still going to school, and again,
school now.
Yeah, but she was like really going, just graduated high school recently, 2 years ago or something like that. So I knew she was gonna go to the places she wanted to go because I know I have a good eye or ear or whatever intuition on like talent, and when I know the talent's there. And I'm like, the skill set's there. It's just going to take time because you have to go to the progress of graduating and looking for work and stuff. So I knew Maggie was great within, like, you know, the first 6 months or so. Once I kind of, like, learned more about her, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're great. There's other people I learned really fast. I'm like, oh, no, this person is wild. Like I said, first time I saw Chucky play, first time I saw Alonzo play. Certain musicians, I won't name people because then people will think I'm also not naming others. But there's certain musicians, like when I go to school, certain ones I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, you're going to be just... Like, I don't know why you're even worried, because you're, like, really great. You know, and sometimes you're wrong, but for the most part, I don't feel like I'm ever wrong. So that's when I knew Maggie was great. It was pretty quick within the first 6 months or so.
Cool. So then, see other examples I have. So I guess you already went through, like, people in the apartment. I mean, I could talk about you and Maggie, but you already mentioned Maggie, and you're here, so it's not really a point in like talking about why I think you're great. You work hard, so it's basically
everyone thinks they work hard.
It's true.
I hardly met anyone who's like, you know what? Honestly, I phone it in on a regular basis.
Well, it depends. When people are at their like quote unquote day job, a lot of times people will say they phone it in.
Even then, they don't really mean it. They say that to sound cool that their job's not hard because they don't want to seem like
admit that they're busting their butt over the Venus report or whatever.
Here's what it is. Here's what happens. I've never told you this. This is what happens when you work a day job that you don't respect or like. You diminish the work itself. You'll be like, oh, I work at the Bull Stadium. And you're like, oh, okay. And you didn't say anything about it. You just said okay. Because they feel some type of way. They're like, yeah, I mean, I don't have to really do much. I check the tickets a couple times, but, it's pretty chill. Like, I just kind of can just walk around the stadium. It's cool. And what they're doing is it's a defense mechanism to kind of, like, not say that, like, instead of saying it's a shit job or something or they don't like it, they'll just say, oh, if you think it's whack, don't worry. It's so easy and so stress-free that it's actually dope because I'm just coasting, cashing the check. But the reality is it's never that chill. Even if it's a little chill, you still got to do work, and that's still what you do. And they don't want to admit that's what they do. Like the 300 thing where he's like, oh, you're all warriors? He's like, really? What's your profession? He's like, oh, you're a potter? It's like, you're not a warrior. It's like the same thing. Some people, I've noticed that with a lot of people, they'll just say that it's super chill. So that way you're like, oh man, it sounds awesome. So you do nothing and you get paid? Sounds great. It's like, right?
I think I've seen that job posting on Craigslist before, and it's not true.
So people are lying about that. So most people don't. Whenever someone's flexing that they don't work, that's because the job sucks. That's why. I've never seen someone like, oh, I'm CEO of this multi-billion-dollar company. I just kind of sit around. It's great. I get like a stipend of $25 million. I run Pepsi. It's all good. No. So most people do take pride in their work, and if you don't take pride in your work, it's probably there's a reason why you don't think there should be pride in it.
Wow.
There you go.
It's a deep cut.
So take that.
Okay. I don't know why you clapped.
I don't know. It was kind of like a cra.
But yeah, okay, cool. That was a little bit of a little side tangent, but I forgot why we brought that up. But yeah,
it
was related. It was related. But other like examples of.
Well, you said that people that I work hard, and I'm like, well, I think everyone thinks they work hard, and if you don't think you work hard, it's because you don't respect your job.
Right, but you, I guess maybe a way to like, may quantify that a little bit more or like narrow down on that is. You have a plan and you execute on the plan that you have, and
or you strive for the plan. You try to execute. Some plans are depends how great.
Well, you're working on your plan because a lot of times you fail, and all of us do. That's kind of the point. Like you want to make it where and we'll talk about that maybe in a different episode on goal setting and things. But
like corny, if your goal doesn't scare you, it's not big.
Yeah, enough. Well, yeah, it should be hard. Like if you're doing it without any problems, that means it's too easy for you, and you need a harder goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And the parallels to school there's like a lot of them. But yeah, anyway, but other ways I surround myself with greatness.
My goal was like to make 5 songs, and midway through the year I'm at 25 songs. Clearly 5 was too little.
Right, exactly.
It's like, well, that wasn't a challenge for you because
you
that's an 5x that in half the time.
I think pushing yourself, and that's something. This is like a little bit not necessarily an example, but just kind of like a thing to add to this idea of greatness, so that people can maybe recognize it a little bit better, or can identify where it comes from or how to see it in themselves if it does exist, or how to foster it if it doesn't exist. But the thing is, it's about like where you're at, and I think that's kind of what I want to get at with this whole idea of like, oh, me and Edwin are quote unquote creatives, so like, oh, clearly you're gonna. I think a lot of people think that we're only gonna like support like the super hippie pursuits, like, oh, you start your own graphic t-shirt company. It's like, I mean, I also like am supportive of people that are just doing something more traditional. Even though it's something I wouldn't want to do. And most things are things I wouldn't want to do. Because if I want to do them, I do them.
Exactly.
But also, you can only really do one thing as a profession for the most part. So sometimes your profession has like multiple facets to it. Like, oh, well, I do this, but I also like do graphic design for the site. Like,
well, if you asked me if you stripped away music and said I was legally not allowed to do music, I can think of other professions. The reason I'm not pursuing those is because I choose music over those.
Yeah.
And there's maybe other things like I don't like it as much.
But yeah, but I think a lot of it is about where you're at, and that's why like when it comes to surrounding yourself with greatness, it's like look for people that are like pushing themselves to be great, and that looks different for a lot of different people. Like one person that I love following on social media. Is I guess it's kind of weird now to name people because it's like, who did I not name? But your friend Santos, or Santos. I don't know how to say his name.
Santos, yeah.
Santos, yeah. And his thing is like it's like Santos' weight loss journey, and he's just documenting how he's like losing weight. And like I've mentioned this on the fitness podcast we did. I'm skinny. I've been skinny my whole life. I do struggle with exercise and maintaining fitness, but I don't struggle with my weight in terms of weight loss. Maybe I struggle with like weight gain a little bit, but not weight loss.
Yeah, Santos _ weight loss _ journey.
And I love following him, and it gives me so much positivity. And like to me, that like my social media is me surrounding myself with greatness as well, because I look on my Instagram, especially because it's, you know, so visual and these little videos of people's lives. You know, I see like his stories on Instagram and his posts. And even though, like, I'm not trying to lose weight, but, like, he's trying to lose weight, and he's going for it. He's going for it hardcore. He's connecting with people. He's supporting people. He's, like, constantly posting, like, these really, like, generally positive things. Like, every now and then he does this post where he'll say, like, you know, on his Instagram story, like, how's this Monday gonna go? And it's like, hell yeah, or oh, I don't know.
A few times, like, I hit the nose.
Yeah, like, me too. And I like it because it's really sweet. It's like a nice little like mental / emotional check-in for you that I wouldn't get if I just existed
didn't follow him
outside of following him. Yeah.
So I think that
that's one example I have.
Reasons why it's important, and maybe we'll go into the counterpoint of some haters or some skeptics, but you want to have that energy.
Yeah, it's the vibes.
You want to have that energy of productivity, positivity, work ethic, and like inspiring to go to bigger goals. Santos is a great example. Even really weird indie stuff. Like, for example, I like a lot of sports, and I like watching sports, and that's my, like, when I'm involved in those communities, and it's in my city for the most part, except the Lakers one. So it's like there's the ownership of the city, and then seeing them rise to greatness, you feel like you're really part of it, and you're like rooting for these people, and you're hoping for their success, and it's beautiful to see. When I see Mexicans play in Europe, man, like, it gets me so proud, like, to see them, like, going for such a big goal, playing in, like, London and Germany, and you know,
Premier League is, like, the highest of, like, soccer.
Yeah, well, I would say La Liga, but yeah, it's one of them. Or, you know, definitely you can make the argument Premier. Yeah, it's
places to be.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the top places to be, undoubtedly, and nowhere in America is close, and that's definitely a fact. So seeing them play there and knowing where they came from, and I see their rise, like, from the little leagues to, like, the big leagues, you know. So it's great to see, and it inspires me, and like other things inspire me. Like, you know, it's weird, but like I go on Twitch and I watch like the Forza Motorsport, like esports stuff. I really like that. Right now I'm in the middle of like a 5-hour stream, because it's 5 hours, so I just watch it like
I didn't know
30
that.
minutes here, 30 minutes there.
I just saw you watch it that one time. I thought it was like a one-time thing.
No,
I
watch it a good amount.
I'm in the community.
No, I'm not in the community. I wouldn't say I'm in the community because I just watched that one. I would say I'm in the community if I was like in a group or like stuff or tweeted about it. But you know, I do watch it. I'm part of the people who watches it, and it's great seeing like people all over the world pushing the boundaries of the video game, the boundaries of themselves, and like going for it for the grand prize and all that. And that stuff, even though I have nothing to do with that, I don't even have the latest Forza game. I do want it, but I haven't gotten it yet. And you know, I have no like nothing about this is something I need to be watching or rationally should, but I do because, well, it's fun, it's entertaining, and I love watching them go for it. And sometimes that I'll draw inspiration from that. I'll draw inspiration from documentaries that are nothing to do. I'm just trying to draw inspiration and build it. And again, that's why people move. You know, I know people kind of crap on the Midwest, even though I'm from it, and I crap on small towns sometimes because I just think they don't understand why. They're like, why can't I be here? I'm like, the reason why is there's not enough people. That's it. Nothing against where your sandwich shop is. It's just there's not enough people. The reason why great art comes from LA and New York and, you know, California and, you know, Paris and that is not because there's anything special in the water. There's a congregation of a lot of people and a lot of people working on the same goals and the same dreams. Some of them from those small towns, and they're just like, you know, they want to go somewhere where it's not weird to be a guitarist, or it's not weird to want to build a social media website in Silicon Valley, or it's not weird to want to do something different with, you know, alloy technology and stuff like that. They want to go places where they're accepted, where it's totally normal, where no one's going to be like, how are you going to do that? It's like, no, that's what we do here. That's what we do here. You're surrounding yourself with the greatness of like, oh, not only are you you're a small fish in a big pond, which is what you want to be, where like I'm being challenged. I'm not the best guitarist in the world, and I'm surrounded by really great ones, and it's gonna push me to be even better and get the most out of it and like grow. That's why you need to surround yourself with greatness. And that's why a lot of people do move to those cities. It's not because, you know, that city's so awesome. It's awesome because of the people, and that people creates originality and pushes other people to heights that
I had that weird like throat sound.
Heights they couldn't reach. And Instagram, Facebook, and all those things, communities can also be that for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to move to a big city. I know some people who choose. One of my friends who's a video game composer, he actually did the opposite. He was from Philadelphia. He moved to like nowhere, Michigan, because he wanted to be away from it all. And he's doing just fine because thanks to the internet, he can commission things out, and that's his choice. He's like, you know, it wasn't for me. And people told him it's the opposite. They're like, are you sure? But he's so great, and he still found a little community he's building, and he's working on building it. So he's still surrounding himself with greatness, just he did it like he kind of like zagged instead of the zig. He went the opposite route. But the thing is, he still is aware of that. He's like, well, I have to just work harder on surrounding myself with if we have 5 people, then all 5 we gotta band together because we're all we got, you know. And he's surrounding himself with greatness. He didn't just go there to be in the woods. He went there to be in the woods with the great people who stayed in the woods with him, you know.
Sounds like a cult.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, same thing with Instagram. There's that's what I follow, like, you know, different like you know, inspirational people, different motivational people like Santos, who is my high school friend, still my friend. You know, I'm so proud of him because a year ago he was nothing like that. He was, you know, out of shape, and I guess unhappy. Like, I didn't talk to him too much, so I didn't know like that much about his life. But apparently he was unhappy with his fitness and his just overall well-being.
And even his mindset, he talks a lot about.
Yeah, he was very negative.
He's like, I was so negative. I don't know why anyone dealt with me. Like, he's very open about that, and I like that. Yeah. I really like when people can own their shortcomings.
And it makes you feel like you can own yours, and like, hey, I have shortcomings too, and if that person can do that, maybe I can, you know, do it.
And that is part of the greatness. Like, it's not like I just follow people or hang out with people that have their life together. Like, to me, true greatness is like, you're never the finished product, right? You're always going for something else.
I mean, it's corny, but the journey's half the fun. Like, being a Lakers fan now is way more fun than if I was a Lakers fan, like, in the middle of Kobe's thing. Not that I'm, you know, if you want to root for it, it's fine, but it's cool to be like, I was, you know, rooting for it before LeBron got there. And I would have been there even if he never came. And, like, I'm watching, like, Lonzo, you know, from, like, 17 to now, and he still got, like, another 10 years, hopefully. And it's fun to see, like, the ups and downs and the rise and fall.
Yeah.
So it's not just, that's the other thing about the greatness. Cause
yeah, it's not like find who has their shit together.
Yeah, find all the...
And, like, latch onto that.
Yeah, like, follow Jay-Z, and now you're surrounding yourself with greatness. I mean, that can be a small aspect, social media-wise, but that would not... Yeah, that's not what we mean by that. No, I feel like
Jay-Z's social media game is probably kind of weak. I haven't checked
it is,
out.
but...
so he might not be a good person to actually choose.
But you know what I mean? I'm just using it as an example.
No, for sure.
Fine. Pharrell, okay? Like, that's not enough. If you're like, I surround myself with greatness. Like, I follow Pharrell Williams, you know? And I see his fashion line, so I'm great, too. It's like, no, that's an aspect that can help inspire you and, like, motivate you and get you in the mindset of, like, this is what, like...
Yeah.
A good norm or a healthy norm.
Assuming that's what you draw inspiration from too, because everyone's gonna have their
don't like clothes or don't care about his music.
Everyone's gonna have their own thing that's gonna like hype them up. Like for me, like I've mentioned, you know, stuff like before. Like I'm, you know, a feminist. I love seeing like women prosper and do great things, especially women of color. So like, you know, I follow a lot of and I'm like friends or acquaintances with a lot of like women of color. So like, you know, I'll follow, like, you know, Rach Jackson, and she's doing her poetry and her art stuff, and she's always working, but she also, like, does a lot of stuff socially, and also kind of talks about being, like, not super into going outside sometimes. So I just love her honesty and her balance there. You know, I follow, like, Haley and her art on Instagram, and I know she's kind of, like, she kind of just broke free of, like, what, it sounds like she was captured or something, but she, like, quit her job and went full-time on that. And she talks about it being really hard and the struggle she has. And I know she's still kind of not struggling, but I'm sure she's not like, you know, loaded or anything.
Well, the time between when she said that and now is short.
Exactly. Like she hasn't been out there for that long. So I'm sure she's still kind of in the beginning phases. Yeah, you know, my friend Allie who does photography, that's been a long road for her. So being able to follow that stuff. Or like to kind of use some of your examples with like the random like documentaries and things. I have that, of course, too. Podcast documentaries. Before I actually bring up those, I liked what you said a lot about when you're welcome. About the small town analogy. I wouldn't necessarily like attribute it to the small town thing because I think that can just kind of be I think people might get distracted from like the whole idea of let's kind of put that part to aside. But the thing I really liked about what you said about that was expectations and what the norm is. And you can get that anywhere from anyone through different means, whether in real life or social media or whatever. But like, what is normal? And making sure that norm is healthy, but also like pushing the boundaries of what you currently do to like what you want to be. So like, if you want to, do like for me, like I'm a distance runner and I live with, people that do distance running. So I haven't actually found the need to really seek out a community. I have the privilege of knowing people that already do that. So
check the leaderboard. Probably number 4. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I'm number 3 because I have a dad who's ahead of me by 2 miles right now. I'm going for a run tomorrow morning, though. Don't tell him. And then I have that random guy that added me who has like 70 miles, and it's like November 9th. So I don't think I'm ever going to catch him. But I like the idea of that expectations and what the normal is. Like, for instance, living here with you guys, like, I have my brother Edwin, I have my dad, and they both like ran marathons, right? So like me saying I'm going to run a marathon, like, I mean, my dad's still kind of like, can't, like, he's not, I don't want to say he doesn't believe in me because that makes him sound like an ass, but he's a little skeptical, but he does support me pursuing it.
He also paid for it.
And he paid for it, yeah. So he's like, he's down. Like, he's like, well, if you want to do it, like, I mean, would he necessarily recommend it if I asked him? Probably not. We've talked about it a little bit, though. But, like, it's not crazy for me to say that I want to run a marathon or that I'm going to run a marathon because my dad's run it. Now, granted, since he's ran it, he's kind of like, I know how hard that is, and I don't know if he got the sauce. But, like, he's ran it. Edwin's ran it. It's, like, kind of normal in my apartment at this point to run a marathon. 50% of the people in the apartment have ran a marathon. So that's, like, normal. And I think, too, like, for me, we've had these discussions, before a bunch, like, outside the podcast. But I really don't like when people in my life, people I'm around, set like the expectations where they're kind of like lower, and it makes me feel like you're kind of if we're thinking of what you can accomplish in your life as a room, it's like you're lowering the ceiling.
What do you mean by that? I actually want to hear some of that.
It can be stuff like no one can reach that like level of like joy by like doing whatever they want in their career or like whatever, like, oh, you can't be successful and just like you can't just do whatever you want in life because like you got bills and stuff. And like I get that, and I do believe that, and even dad has a little bit of that speak. And I'm like, well, there's like a level of realism you can bring into it, but I'm like, to say that you can't like love what you do and make a living is like, I'm like, I don't want to fuck with that energy because I feel like that's not one, it's not true. Because there's like a lot of people doing what they like. And
everything that we consume for entertainment, someone is getting paid a salary.
Or even earlier today we were talking about people in general being like jaded about like love and romance, and like I don't actually know anyone that's like jaded to the point where it's like toxic or something. Luckily, but I wouldn't. I mean, I've seen
it a couple years.
I've seen like people on social media, friends, acquaintances, whoever that seem a little bit maybe they're just being jokey, but who might be a little bit more on the bitter side of things. And like I don't want to be around that energy necessarily either. Like I don't want to say like I believe in like a soulmate or true love or something like that, but I'm like I think that's something that can happen, and like it's important and I value it. So like not that I would necessarily we're now going to kind of get into maybe the like letting go of people or whatever, but not that I would necessarily like not hang out with someone that didn't like want a long-term relationship as like a friend, but like I guess it's just like if you're like really negative on it, or you're kind of like maybe you got cheated on a few times, and you're like, true love doesn't exist, like, like, if you're literally like, fuck men, like, whatever, like, I say it jokingly, but I don't actually, like, mean it, because, like, I want a relationship, like, that kind of thing, like, if people kind of make it seem like, oh, it's not possible to do, trying to think of other things that might be examples of, like, impossibilities,
good,
but yeah, when, like, people kind of, they say, like, oh, it can't be done, and then it's like, well, if you don't think it can be done, and I'm, like, kind of, like, I want to do it, then, like, that doesn't really work well together.
Yeah, so I guess one thing I'm trying to think of someone who is listening and is kind of still not fully sure how to go about this. Besides before we get to the going part, how do you know that the people that you're surrounded by greatness? And what's a way to? You showed us some examples, but what if there's someone who's a painter? And, like, their whole circle is totally different, like, how would they know that, hey, I'm around the good community, or I'm around people that are, good to be around, according to, you and I, E and J, two drink men.
I think, like, if they're pushing the boundaries of whatever they're doing. So, like,
the painter or the painter's circle?
Both.
Yeah.
Both, because I think greatness it applies across the board, and that's why I try to keep it like general, so that it can apply to anything. What do you want to do? I use the example.
I guess it's what Just I want to jump in real quick. I guess it's what do you want to do, and is that circle of people helping support and amplify that possibility?
That, and also, are they like? Are they pushing for greatness in their own lives as well? Because I don't think it's enough to be like, it is nice when people are supportive of you.
Yeah, I don't want a cheerleader. I want a coach,
Yeah, well, or even just like, honestly, I don't want to be the only person that's doing cool stuff. That seems weird and awkward.
Well, then you're definitely not in the good circle, because if you're the only one really pushing to do anything,
and then that's like,
then
it's weird.
You not only become a person who doesn't have the support group of people who are pushing, but then you become like the champion of the minions, like no one else is. You're just really like, go for it. It also would add like a weird pressure, I think, to be like, I have to keep doing this because I'm the only one in this like community doing anything. It's why players, I don't want to go too much into sports, but it's like why some players leave certain teams. They're like, I don't want to be mean, but I'm the only good one here. And I'm like, I'm tired of carrying all of you. And I also get the blame we lose. And they're like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, me, I'm the only one who's wrong here.
Yeah, I think there's a level of that in social circles. I think a good example that I can think of for my own, like, do you have any other clarifying questions on the greatness thing before I kind of add in extra stuff?
I think that's it. I can kind of, after you talk, I can mention the times where I realized I wasn't in those circles.
This is kind of leading into that a little bit, almost, but not fully. But this is something, you and I had when I've talked off camera about a lot. I've talked to my friends about this a lot, too. No, not a lot, but I've mentioned it to them. But, like, and this is almost leading into, like, I know we want to do some dating episodes down the line for, like, February, but I don't think this would actually come up because it's not related to the topics we've talked about. But, like, especially once I, like, quit my teaching job and started doing game journalism and writing full-time, essentially, or at least, like, it's always going to be my main focus from now on until forever, I guess. Once, on like these dating apps, you can like, you have like your job to some extent listed on there. I think you can maybe opt out of that, but I always list like what I do to some extent. Not like the specific company, but like what I do generally. And especially when I got had the video game journalism thing written there, a lot of people, and like my like apps are set to like, looking for men or whatever. So a lot of guys would be like, oh, that's cool. And, they'd use it like an entry point to talk to me. And I'm not going to lie, I get kind of sick of like, what's my favorite video game ever? And, I know they're just trying to be... What is your favorite video game ever? Jak 2, probably, but, yeah.
Has anyone ever offered to play it with you sometime?
No, actually, no one's... Well, it's not a multiplayer game.
That doesn't mean you can't do, like, a passive controller, like, let's, have some fun.
No one's had that. I mean, I've had the joking, like, oh, we'll race you in Mario Kart sometime or whatever, but, nothing like that. But, they're just trying to, like, connect with me and find something to talk about. There's only so many pieces of information on there. That's not my beef. But as far as, like, this finding stuff, the greatness thing, one issue I found is when I mentioned I did game journalism, and I kind of, maybe some people would ask maybe follow-up questions like, how'd you get into that, or what does that mean, or whatever. And I briefly share my story of, like, oh, well, I was wanting to do it, and this is what I do, and blah, blah, and I'm building my career. And I'd get a lot of people that were, like, essentially, they were like, wow, I don't like what I do. I don't like my job. And these are people that are like, on paper, they're successful people. Like, I'm actually like, I live in Chicago. Maybe it's just like a big city thing. There's a lot of people that are like successful and or making a lot of money on these dating apps. Like, I don't know. Maybe they're so busy working, they can't find someone in real life. So they go on the apps. I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, like pretty much everyone I've dated off of apps has made like a really good amount of money, even more than me when I was teaching, which is crazy because you make pretty good money in CBS. Anyway, so they're successful. They have, like, a job in their field, but they're, like, unhappy for whatever reason. And they would just kind of, like, step to me sort of like, wow, you're happy? What's that like? You have a job you like? I don't. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't really know you right now, so it's kind of weird. But the reason I bring that up is because, like, for me, as far as relationships, obviously, like, a romantic relationship is one of the closest relationships you can have in existing as a human, right? You have Maggie, and you said she's great, and you knew that pretty early in a relationship. So, unsurprisingly, like, I want someone that's also great to whatever extent. I don't really care what you do as long as you're happy doing it. And I got so many, like, of these conversations that popped up that I, like, literally, like, went into my profile and I wrote, like, in, like, one of them, because it gives you the option. I'm like, I'm like, I'm looking for someone who either likes what they do or is working to do something that they like. That's it. And honestly, once I did that, a lot of it stopped, and I didn't have those issues. I don't know if the guys saw it and just knew they were sad and just kept scrolling or what. But that's like something that comes to mind with the whole idea of like letting go and knowing to like, I'd say like kind of like the in the Secrets to Success podcast with ET and all them, they mentioned like if maybe your squad is already whacked to some degree and you really can't do anything about it because maybe their family or your whatever the situation is, just make sure you don't let any more whack people in. So I guess like with relationships,
they also mentioned see less of them.
Yeah.
If it's someone for some reason it's not possible to cut them out, then just reduce it to what's the bare minimum.
Yeah. So with romantic relationships, it's something that I'm like thinking about a lot because I'm like, yeah, I want someone that feels happy about their life and you know they can be supportive of me in my work and I can support them in their work. But, like, you need to give me if you're not giving me something to support, I can't support you.
Right.
Because then, like, well, then, okay, well, what do you do? And if you really do nothing, like, literally nothing, like, you don't give a fuck about anything, you probably are unhappy. Because everyone has something they like. You don't have anything you like? You don't want to watch more movies next year? Something? Like, something you like? Something you want to do? You're not striving for anything? What is your, do you have any conceivable reason to get up in the morning to, like, quote the Seinfeld thing? So that's my, like, quick thing on the, maybe, like, cutting people out or keeping people out who don't have that
I'll kind of go into it because, especially because if you only know me through this podcast, then it looks like I'm just, like, a great guy who's got it all together, which is true, but it wasn't always true, I'm, how old? 30 years old. So I didn't really get it together. It depends what you consider getting it together.
24. I'm working on it.
You can, if you think like my mindset was right and stuff, then maybe like 23, 24. If you look at it when like it was indisputable, then it's like 28, 27. So, it depends on what you define. It's like, oh, he's got it together. The earliest you can probably say is like I said, 22, 24. The latest probably like 27, 28. Unless you're just like, oh, if you don't have 100K, then I think you're whack. And then of course, well, then I haven't reached it. But that's just literally if you just throw a number that's like, in my opinion, high. But other than that, those are the times you can say. Before that, I was very whack because I was a very bad student. I did essentially drop out of high school. I finished the 4 years, but I didn't get the degree. And then with what I had left, I failed French class every single time. So, I didn't drop out. I just, when the year was up, I didn't have the diploma. And they're like, you got to redo French. And I'm like, I'll do it later. And I did do it later. But I did like a year later. I took my time. I did take the summer class and graduate. So it was fine. But I didn't walk. I didn't get my diploma. And it took me a while, right? I didn't officially graduate until like 19, 20 years old. And, everyone knows in America it's 18. So it's like 2 years late. So that stuff was bad. That was pretty whack. But, I finally got it. But I only got it just to get it because I'm like, well, I'm so close. Might as well finish it. I worked a regular job and it was fine. And I actually was pretty happy at it. But then I started digging a hole with dad. I bought a car. Bills started to... I started creating bills, like, I'm going to get a phone, and then, it's another bill, and stuff like that, and before you knew it, I realized I was at a dead-end job, and then the real kicker was I started being unhappy with the situation. Long story short, I got into drama with a few of the managers and stuff, nothing like bad, but just like...
Yeah, it sounds crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't like a fight or anything, it was just that they just started to not like me, and anyone who works retail or has worked a job where, like, there's a hierarchy, once the hierarchy doesn't like you, it kind of becomes an issue, and it became an issue where, like, I didn't get fired or anything. They were going to keep me there forever, and it might even, who knows, maybe 2-3 years, it would blow over, or those people would get transferred out, or whatever. But the point was, I realized, yeah, this isn't the look. I don't like how out of control I am in my own life. Like, it's not really up to me. I can only kind of put myself in the best position. And that's true in general, but in here, it's really not up to me. Like, there are a couple people who can literally be like, you're gone today, and all your income's gone. And all your values deleted, So I didn't like that, and I started to realize that, hey, man, this is not what's up. And this is not what I need to do.
Plus, you didn't have any other skills or things you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I just said, I applied. I started working there when I was 18, and from like 19, 20, well, then that's all you got, So, so no surprise, that wasn't going good. And, I don't want to be rude, but like a lot of people I worked with were in similar situations. That's why if I ended up here, how'd you end up here? You probably also don't have much things going on. And also this was one of your few options. Or you worked at, this retail place. Now you work at this retail place. Now you're entry level this retail place. And, just like greatness, the reason why you want to surround yourself with greatness is because great plus great equals great. Well, guess what happens when you're on the other side? Whack plus whack equals whack. And next thing you know, you're just in a big shit sandwich.
I think it's also, too, if you accidentally get caught up in whackness.
And that's what I did.
You don't know you're whack. Or you might be like, I'm dope because I'm better than the whack people I'm around. It's like, that don't mean you're good. It just means everyone else is
So I realized, hey, I'm not fantastic. And the people I'm around, you know, where do I see their life? And it's probably around the same. And that ceiling wouldn't be anywhere near where I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It's like, the best this person can do is maybe one day become a manager. Which wasn't bad, but...
It's not the life you wanted for yourself.
It's not only not the life I wanted, it's not a high number at that specific job. Maybe like the actual store, but like, you know, so I see the levels and I see the people and I'm like, this isn't good. So, you know, in a weird way, well, one, I decided to go back to school, get my life together. I transferred out of that store because I wasn't the problem. I was legitimately a phenomenal worker. And when I transferred out, that problem was resolved because I am a phenomenal worker. So
actually, was a really good worker. It's like very documented.
Yeah, it's very. Even the people who I mean, I left them, so, and they were mad, and they would even acknowledge today.
And part of that, even though, like, I know I'm not trying to say like, oh, you're like this way because of dad or something, but like, my dad's or our dad is very like into like you do good work because it's got your like name attached to it. You know, not like in a problematic way, but I think he really instills that and models that.
Sure. Again, so the greatness, right? And that's
so like whenever I'm the same way. I accept any job, and I try to like, you know, knock out of the park because I'm already there anyway.
So like, I realized then, and you know, unfortunately, I remember the first times I had to let go of those friends because I had to do my practice, and again, they didn't respect that. Again, maybe I was being a little too harsh, but again, I was trying to fix my life. So it's like they wanted me to hang out and party, and I'm like, I need to practice my instrument. I'm trying to become a musician. I'm not a musician. I need to work on this. It's gonna be the hardest thing I ever had to do. So no, I can't just go somewhere. I need to do this. And that's when I started to lose them. They stopped messaging as much, you know, and it kind of fizzled out, and I moved on because I had to I need to be around people where that's a good norm. Like, oh yeah, we're all trying to be musicians, or we all are musicians, and you're like the young buck. And the same thing happened with my I started working with some other musicians, and I had to let them go.
Or you understand what it's like to pursue something like that.
Yeah.
We mentioned, you know, especially like off camera and stuff, that like it doesn't have to be like people in your field directly, but people that get it.
Right, yeah. So that's why I had to let them go. I didn't let them go because they weren't guitarists. I let them go because they wouldn't respect my instrumentation, and they didn't understand that. So there's no point in trying to convince them. It was not going to happen. It's over. It's done, right? Like, I have to move on to a new chapter in my life because this chapter sucks, and I want a new one that's good. And you're not, unfortunately, involved in it. Not that I think they're heartbroken or anything. It's just like you're not going to be involved in it because you don't see anything wrong with the chapters we're on. You think this book was great, and I'm like, we need to do a new book, and it needs to be better than this one. You're like, I like the old one. I'm like, well, you can keep reading it, but I'm done. I am done. We're doing a new direction here. So that was a time in my life where I realized it, and I had to do that. And I had to do that with close friends as well. I had to do that with other people I was living with and things like that, where I'm just like, you know what? I love y'all, and I still love y'all, even to this day, but you don't take musicianship seriously and at the level that I want to do it at. And I know enough, and that's the thing. Once you know, and people do know this, you know enough. When I knew enough, where I'm like, hey, we tried this for a while, it never works. At a certain point, I'm the idiot, and I'm like, I have to move around and go to people who actually get it done, or I have to become the person who gets it done. But it can't be like this, and I'm not gonna be like, you know, asking anymore. You know, it's kind of like, you know, just you realize that the people around you don't value the things you value. Not the way that you value them, because they value music and they consider themselves musicians, but not like professional. It's my living, and I just didn't see them getting there. It wasn't like, oh, it's a matter of time. It's like, no, you only practice when you want, and you only record when you want, and it's when it's got to be on your terms and your mood. And a professional doesn't work that way. I've seen it. It's not this. And that's the thing. When you see what it is, you really realize, oh, there's a clear difference between, you know, this and this. It's like everyone pretends they're a lion, but then I realize you're just a domestic cat. And cause you know how I know? Because I just saw a lion, and it was like, rawr, and you're like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't think you can become that, you know?
Yeah, please stop.
So
this one,
you know, so exactly, so exactly, the actions and realizing that, and that's tough for some people. But you know, I would say, and we'll probably maybe talk about this in our adulting episode about what it is to be an adult. Adults make tough decisions. That I do know. I don't think any adult would disagree. They've had to make tough decisions, whether that was in their life, their marriage, their job, their family. You got to make tough decisions, and sometimes there isn't a good option. That's what being an adult is. Sometimes you want to call off work, but you might get in trouble. You got to make a tough decision. Sometimes you're with your wife, and she wants to spend Thanksgiving at her mom's house, and you kind of can't stand it. But do you start a fight? What do you decide? You know, there might not be good options in the options you have and the joy you want. sometimes being adults, bucking up and realizing, okay, well, these are the solutions I have. And sometimes you like people and you do have to let them go, because even though they're not malicious and it's not toxic like racist or putting you down or harassing, but their neutrality in the progression of development in your life is actually just as negative.
Or development in life, too.
Yeah, development in life is just as negative. Because what I mean by helping you is like helping you by inspiring you or being someone you want to be around.
Right. Well, they're not a positive force.
Yeah, they're not a positive force. They're like a neutral force. And sometimes that's hard to take out. It'd be easier if they were a jerk or rude or disrespectful. You'd be like, hey, man, this person's a clown. Forget all that greatness stuff. They're just a jerk. So I'm not talking to them. What people have trouble with, I notice, is that when it's not that, they're like, I don't know, I like to get cheeseburgers with them. I'm like, but they don't like... There's nothing to talk about when you get the cheeseburgers. They don't have anything, and you have stuff, and then it's a one-way street, and it's just you talking about you while they just kind of mumble and then give you some BS that, the only thing they're going to do is lie to you. Be like, I'm also thinking about painting, the house, and they don't. They're just saying it because they got to see something, and then you're kind of annoyed because you're like, man, you're not going to do that, but then do I call you out? And exactly, it becomes a negative situation that at best is neutral. And you don't want to be around that. You want to be around situations that at worst is neutral and at best is positive. Mm-hmm. When negative is already a pretty likely thing and neutral is a best case scenario, you're already in a losing situation. And unless that's super temporary, like having to see an uncle that you really can't stand, but it's only once or twice a year, no big deal. If it's something that's consistent and regular, you really got to get rid of that if you want to be great. And that's the thing. Do you want to be great? And I think a lot of people say they do, but, there's a time when you realize, are you what you say you are you not? And if you want to be, adults make those tough decisions. Adults cut people out who aren't necessary and aren't helping or helpful. And I want everyone, and I still think everyone can be great. I know deep in my heart that's not true, but I think the number of people who can be great compared to the number of people who are great, there's a huge gap there. And a lot of people can get great, and I think that's just part of dealing with those tough decisions. I've never had to sit someone down and be like, hey, done. I would if I had to, but usually people get the hint, or they just, they weren't as into me as much either. They weren't willing to fight for the friendship, so I didn't have to worry about that. I'm like, hey, the 2 times you asked me to go party in the last month, I said no. After that, you stopped messaging me, so we're good. Nothing malicious, but it's just like, well, you're not going to mess me again. I never message you again, so we're fine. But I know myself enough to know that if I had to, I'd be like, hey, it's not being disrespectful, but like, I have career things I have to go to, and that's where my focus needs to be, and I just feel like when we hang out, it's just nothing that's like that. So, I'm going to have to do this. You think I'm bougie or something? I'm not trying to be, but, I can't help what you think. And it's my life. And especially as a person who messed up for so many years, I think that's why I'm so guerrilla with it, so aggressive with it. I'm like, yo, I know what messed up looks like. I'll never go there, and I'll never let anyone make me go there. If I go there now, it's because I just misread things horribly. It won't be because, so-and-so didn't want to do this, and I gave in to that, and I settled for this, and it was worse than I thought it would be. That's never going to be me again. Because that was me for 3-4 years, and I won't let that happen again.
That's and I get that you default to career because that's your whole life.
Yeah.
It's really your whole life because you have Maggie and stuff, but
sports.
Yeah,
sports.
I don't know. I guess since you're already dating, it's
fitness too.
I don't want to say it's on autopilot because you work. I see you guys deal with your relationship every day.
Man, I wish if this is autopilot, what would happen if we took the autopilot?
I don't know. Don't take it off though, because it's already a bumpy ride. It's already
the wind has a lot of turbulence, regardless of the plane.
Yeah, so I don't want to be disrespectful of that, but you're kind of just in your own little bubble already.
Right.
But I get that's why you but you made that bubble's formed by your career personally for you, I think. Not in a bad way, but it just is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean...
But just to kind of remind everyone, it's not just, about your job or about whatever. It's, about whatever, you want to do. Maybe it's, traveling. Maybe you're honestly, I really would love to, settle down and have a family. And you have to find people to do that with, right? That's not... Or at least find the means to, make that happen. Whatever that ends up meaning for you or anything, whatever your situation
Working out's a good example. Maybe you really want to get fit. You need to make sure that the people... You need to surround yourself with people who are fit or are just as dedicated and willing to do the work, because that takes a lot of sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
It's not your job. So easy to cut out. Society makes it kind of hard. You work 9 to 5. Can you find a 24-hour gym?
But I think even if you are that workout person and you're maybe finding a workout squad or a fitness squad, I think you can still look at your existing squad and they can still be great. But what is their source of greatness? And if they don't have one, that might be a problem. that probably is a problem, right?
Like, I would say it's a problem regardless of what you want to do. If they
but what I'm saying is you don't need like everyone around you to be into exercise. You just need everyone around you to be great. But like, so what is their source of greatness? And if you can't identify one,
that's what I meant by my career thing. It wasn't they weren't musicians. That's what I meant. It wasn't they were musicians. Is that they were in the same messed up situation I was. I realized it and I had to move, and they just were like okay with it. So I was like, well, if you're okay with what I think's messed up, that's why we can't.
I get that, but then later on you mentioned like I have to leave you because I have to focus on my career. And
I said if I had to have that conversation, I'd be like, well, the thing is, you're cool with that career. I literally just had it. No. I need to move on. Yeah. And the way it was, and obviously I'm thinking of the people. It's a little. I can't get into details. Yeah. No. Or I don't want to get into details. But that's why it wasn't because you're not a guitarist. It's like.
But all I'm saying is
you're in a messed up spot, and I want to get out, and you don't want to get out.
Right.
So
well, but since like all I'm saying is that since you like went really specific into what your example was, I just want to remind people that that's not necessarily like what it might mean for you.
Right. Because like it might be a little bit different. The dad thing's a prime example. Yeah. He's cool in his regular job. And it's fine because he finds beauty in that in the technical things of just being the technician in the restaurant, not the technician like electronic, but like just like I'm just doing the same thing. I'm a robot, and he's great at that, and he delivers his income, and he's down to support, and he does the intangibles around our apartment that like maybe I struggle with. Even though people won't glorify it, like the heat's off, he's the guy to go to. If I don't know what this switch does, he's the guy to go to. Yeah. There's other aspects. You can find ways to be influential and powerful. Yeah. Everyone has to have a role. So again, that's why I didn't, abandon my dad. Cause I'm like, oh, well, you're not honoring me. It's totally different. He has his own greatness and his own leadership and years of experience and stuff like that. So greatness comes in all shapes and forms. I'm just trying to show an example of like, I was in a bad spot.
I just wanted to remind everyone. Like, I liked your example fine, but I just wanted to
for sure. Yeah, it's good
it's not just about that. It can be though. It might be for you, but it also might not be.
Yeah, it might be. It might be that serious to you where you're like, hey, just cut it all out. Anything that's not this, cut out. And if you have to do that, that's fine. I was talking to I forgot who it was. It might have been Meg. It might have been a friend, but I mean, it was a friend. It was things are in season sometimes, and if like for example. I'm really into health, and we had the health podcast where I'm like, you gotta work out. I don't give a crap. And that's true.
3 days a week, even though I only work out 1 day a week. I was training for the marathon.
That's true. But if something's really, like, let's say you're, for example, an asterisk to that, maybe you can edit this in there. In the rare scenario where you're like, hey, I only got a month left of my, grad degree, my PhD, and I'm just going to screw everything else except this PhD because I really just need to get this, and after this month, I'm done and I'm good, then of course, if it's literally that temporary...
Actually, and I know,
then I could probably back off from that.
We're going a little bit long at this point. But actually, I disagree. I mean, not literally.
Well, you have to know if that's honest or are you just BSing and also we get done.
Here's the thing. I think sometimes that can be the case, and like nothing should be absolute. And you kind of gotta. That's a whole nother podcast.
Isn't that an absolute?
Wow, that's crazy. No, but
would you say it's crazy?
I wouldn't. I would never say that actually. But
I just did.
I think that like that can be kind of true. But the reason I disagree with it is because I actually went through this really recently myself. I'll try to make this very short because we gotta start wrapping up.
Yeah, we're
it's already getting really long. Yeah. And at a certain point, there's just different podcasts inside of this topic.
For sure.
I think too often, and I guess this sort of relates to the surrounding yourself with greatness to an extent because it's like. You gotta like know how to go about it because it's not so much that like you don't need to have tunnel vision on your like number one goal, like whether it's fitness, finding a man, getting a career, getting a new job, making sure the kitchen's clean every week, or whatever your greatness is, whatever greatness for you feels like, what you need in your life. Like you want to be careful not to go like too tunnel vision with it. Like you should be aggressive with it. But one thing I noticed with myself is like when I changed careers. I was like, I'm going to go hardcore. I'm not going to go outside. I'm not going to talk to anyone. Right. I'm like not going to date. And I like went really, I'm not going to exercise. I went really in on it. But to be honest, it's not that I was like being lazy, but I'm like, I realized, and I don't know why it took me so long to realize, but I'm like, I cut out things that actually are good for my life and human life to try to like.
Again, I was talking about very specific.
But I think sometimes.
Like with me with working out, where you're like, you're only doing one. It's because like literally once the marathon's done, and I've proved it.
But I think sometimes
like,
you think that. You're going to go put all that energy into that. But the reality is you don't.
Or you lie. You say, once I get a job, I'll do the healthy things again.
Also, really
and you get
quick,
a job
too,
and you don't do the healthy things.
You'd be surprised, and by you, I mean like the general you'd be surprised like what those time wasters can actually do for your energy, your mental health, and your mood.
Right.
Because
sometimes better to watch a Forza Horizon stream than practicing.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds.
And like it does, like I get the I cut it out, trim it down.
Yeah.
So you also want to make sure that we're not saying that cut out anyone that's not as career driven as you if you're into career or whatever. But make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are striving for greatness in their own right. Maybe
in their own way.
Yes. Maybe they're pushing for learning new recipes. Maybe they want to learn new language. Is there something positive that they're somewhat working towards that they can kind of contribute to your relationship with them?
Are they inspired and inspiring?
Yes.
And if the answer is no, I think we got a problem. If you're not inspired or inspiring to you,
you're just
you gotta be careful about why you're hanging out with someone who's not inspired or inspiring.
Yeah, you can't be neither. You should probably be both, but you cannot be neither.
So take a look at that, and we'd love to get some comments about what greatness means to you. What ways are you great? What ways is your community, whether that's your friends, family, or internet friends, helping inspire, cultivate, and create that energy that we all need? Because life's long, it's hard. They say life is short. I think life is long. It's
I was thinking about today. I was running and thinking about how many years I have left.
So much.
A lot of years.
I have more.
I hope there's not an afterlife at this point.
Hopefully,
too much.
hopefully, Lord willing, if you're religious, hopefully I have more in front of me than behind, because that means I go past 60. But if I do, it's kind of scary. It's every minute of my life till now, double. And I only remember from 12 to now, and not perfectly because I don't have total recall. But from 12 to now, so even 10 of those years, I'm I don't remember when I was 5. Nothing. So it's crazy to think from 30 to 60, I kind of will. So it's actually getting more. So life's long, and you want to be around people that are helping make it feel short, helping make it feel like you're getting all the juice out of it, and they're getting all the juice out of it. And it's just awesome. And if you're not feeling that, honestly, you need to really check yourself. You might be where I was when I was 21, where I'm
yeah, because life is actually awesome, and if you don't think it's awesome, something's
you're letting
wrong.
things slip through, and you got to be careful. Maybe you're depressed, maybe something's going on. Maybe you need.
And maybe you're just on autopilot and don't realize it.
I mean, I didn't realize it till I've told the Cheeto box story where I just realized, oh my goodness, this is a train wreck.
It's wait a minute, this isn't the life I want.
It was at one point I smelled the gas leak and I was like, wait, what? I didn't think there's a gas leak in here, and it's you weren't paying attention. And then when you're not paying attention, you're on autopilot. That's when the turbulence comes, and you're like, I don't know how to fly this plane.
So if you're trying to build more of that community in your own life, you want to find other people that are great. We didn't really touch on this too much, but just to close out, ways to go about that. Whatever you want to achieve greatness in, whether it's organizing your home better,
tell people, let people know,
fashion, whatever it is.
Don't be afraid to say, hey, sounds crazy, I want to run the marathon, or sounds crazy, I want to one day open a studio. Just tell people,
I want to do whatever you want to do.
They'll start coming out. It's crazy. You start telling people you want to do something, and all of a sudden they'll start reaching out. It's happened to me a bunch.
Happened to me for sure.
This week, it happens to Janet all the time. Once you start saying that this is what I'm trying to do, and you actually start showing people that you're working towards it, they'll reach out to you, and you can reach out to the people are actually
and it can literally
really
be
awesome
anything. It can
stuff,
be I really want to. My goal is to have the best living space, and I want to work on making my apartment look nicer. That could be part of your greatness. It doesn't have to be anything big.
Again, Netflix, interior spaces. I love that stuff.
I'm sad we're out of time because
awesome.
I find that show really inspiring.
Yeah, it's great to see. But again, that's a very specific. You should actually check it out on Netflix. Anyone listening,
amazing interiors.
Because they actually talk about people who are generally just regular and they have a niche they're really passionate about, and they create their living space to match that niche and fulfill them in that way. And that's awesome.
I know it's crazy, but I just want a room full of neon signs. And I'm yes, make your room full of neon signs.
Yeah, so it's a really
cool
And
I love that because it's people going for what they want. So look out on the internet, talk to people about it, or even just join more communities and just try to meet more people. Because in meeting people, you'll find people that you'll be wow, that's dope. I love that. I vibe with your energy. That's cool.
Yeah.
And that'll happen. So thanks so much for listening to this, guys. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to hit subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube and on either iTunes or Podomatic or whatever other service, be sure to leave a review. And we will see you guys here next time. Bye.